Hello everybody and welcome back to Satisfactory. Now, this is a new world since my previous one. I did progress a little bit further than I showed in the last video. I played around with the trains, although I didn't quite get up to the nuclear level. This, however, is a new world because Update 3 dropped and it changed everything, and so I thought it would be an interesting change to just start over, and this time in a new starting location and trying to make my base a little bit more organized than it was last time. And this is the result so far. As it stands, I'm still not up to trains. We're actually about the same sort of tech level that it was in my last video. I've just unlocked steel, but I haven't yet automated all of the steel products. I've got some of the automation done, but I haven't done encased beams yet. So I haven't yet finished off all the tier 6 stuff, sorry. But I just wanted to have a quick tour through the base as it is now, because I'll probably be ripping up a lot of it very soon. But let's go. So this is my main hub area. It's just a little nice section with the hub and the MAM back there, and workshops, the shop, that sort of thing. Through here is my main space elevator platform. It's just a nice overlook. I love these new decoration pillars, by the way. And you can see in here I've managed to build all of these smart plating so far, but I haven't yet done these two. I haven't actually started trying to build these yet, so I'm still a little ways away from getting the tier 5, I think it is. It's weird, I thought I had... Maybe I'm just confused. One moment. Oh, okay, yes, I haven't got to tier 5 yet. I'm just misremembering what the tiers are. Alright. So, yeah, up here, let's just go through the old parts. So this is one of the older parts of the base. It's a basic concrete factory. And that's coming from this. That's just a bunch of splitters in there. Down here is the main limestone node that's feeding that. This is all tier 1 stuff using the tier 1 belts even, so only bringing up 60. That's the tier 2 belt, so 120 out of that split into 260s and into there and through there. I've got access to tier 3 now and tier 2 miners, so this is obviously really out of date. So I'm going to have to rip all that out and replace it at some point. Navigation through here is a little bit funky, but it works. So you can just climb onto here and then jump up to here, and you're back on here. I used to have the concrete going into the sink here, but I've disconnected that now because I've got something else. So I've got a reasonable income of stuff. I'll show you what's producing that later. Got a few tickets. Haven't unlocked everything yet. Over here, this is where I started, down in this valley. You can see my original power setup here. All of these, I'm not using the biomass anymore, but so I'll eventually get rid of all of these, but it's just there for fun. And here is just a basic biomass generator setup. It's all pretty standard. You just put the leaves in there and the wood in there, and I've also got over here, this is where you put some alien carapaces, because there's not really much else to do with those things, and they produce a ton of biomass, so that's where a lot of it was coming from, just from adventures out in the world. So, by the way, this is the northern forest starting area. You haven't seen it before. Yeah, this is just some leftover iron that I haven't done anything with. It's just sort of sitting there doing nothing right now. And this is an iron node, which I haven't even used yet, so what this is doing is this is just going into storage and then straight into another sink. So some of my tickets are coming from that. And this copper line here, yeah. And I've set up a copper line. This is also still tier 1 stuff. And there's another copper node up there that I haven't even tapped into yet. And this comes along here. And half of it goes into the sink again, and the other half just goes over here where I've got a basic wire set up and so forth. So again, I haven't fully automated all this stuff yet. I mean, it's automated production, but it's not going into my base proper yet, so at some point I need to tear all this down and move it. Yeah, so what I've done in general, the basic design that I'm trying to go with for this is that near all of the miners and so forth, I have a basic processing setup which turns things into the basic units, so turning things into ingots or whatever, as you can see here with the copper, and it's got a little identifying stripe to say what resource it is, in case you can't tell from the belt, obviously. But so it's a slightly more reddish tint for the iron, and it was a white colour for the limestone down there. So the idea is that I'll do all the basic things, bring the basic resource, the ingots or whatever, back to the central base, and then turn it into more useful products in the central base. So this is the iron processing system. It's just currently running off, I think, 3 iron nodes, and there's a 4th one back there that I haven't plugged in yet. Yeah, so here's the 3 nodes over here. They're all pure nodes, which is nice. Again, color coding just to say this is the path to the iron. And in here we've just got basic processing to turn them into ingots, and the ingots are then going off into the main base. I've also got, strangely enough, looking at this, I haven't unlocked the walkways yet because they're in the shop, but these actually work really well as walkways. I might actually keep using them. This is just an organization belt floor, and over here you can see just a very basic rod and plate manufacturer. Again, this was the first one that I set up before I built the main base area, and it's all tier 1, and I'll probably eventually tear it all down. But it's just here for interest's sake. So it's I've sort of vaguely organized it. The bottom floor is doing the actual iron smelting and then crafting into plates, and the top floor is doing crafting into the iron rods, because I needed a few more of those to keep up the same sort of volume. But, yeah, so this just loops around again, and there's another floor of production in here, smelting, producing the ingots, and they go down onto the floor and then over across there into the main base, which I'll now show you. So coming through the main hub area, down here into the main base, so eventually this will all be enclosed and covered. I just haven't got around to it yet. This is the sort of the main public corridor, I guess you could say, and it goes into my main storage area. This is a similar sort of idea as to my last world. I just wanted one room which has all the things, but I've tried to organize it a little bit better than in the previous one, where previously I just had a big giant wall where this was one item and then above it was a completely different item. Now we've just got one point here which has the item, and then there's some secondary storage of the same item above it. So that goes, that one's spare. So that's the same here. So this is the steel stuff in there. It's some more steel stuff coming in there. I haven't set up everything yet, so like these don't have any extra storage above yet, because it's a little bit of a throwing a few different ideas back and forth about how to go about doing this, but I'll show you how that works in a moment. Coming over here, this is the main sort of iron and iron-related things production floor. Again, it's not really trying to be pretty or super efficient, although it's reasonably efficient for what it does. So I've got some iron coming in. See, I'm not even using this line of iron at the moment. The idea is this would go up to a second floor and I'd be doing a bit more processing. But again, this is all just 60 lines right now. So I need to increase that and bring a lot more machines for these. So at the moment, this is just very basic processing. So this is just what you can do from a 60 line of iron ingots, which is not really that much, but it's enough to get you going early game. So this is just producing a bunch of plates over here, and then over this way, producing screws, And then I think there's some rods being produced over this way somewhere. That's the. Actually, no, I'm not actually producing rods over in this part of the base. The only rods are over in the old factory over there, and they're just being conveyed over into here, and then they come up over here again and go over into some of this other processing. So this is where I'm producing some of the more complicated things. So this one's producing the modular frames very, very slowly. This one is where it's producing the project parts, the smart plating, and then it's reinforced plates and things over here. So again, all of this probably needs to get ripped out and replaced now that I've got access to the higher tier belts. But it's enough to get started. So the basic idea down here is this is a sort of a warehousing management sort of floor. Again, I haven't closed everything off yet, but this is where bring things down and across and back up again as needed. But mostly, what this is so that things come over here into the storage area. And again, I'm going to tidy this up a bit while later on we jump over these bits, which I'll get to later. You can see this side of the base, which was constructed a bit later, is a little bit tidier. A little bit of a mess there, which I'll explain a bit more later as well. Let's see, there's the emergency staircase, which is why it's red, but most of the time you get up by going over here and onto the main thing. And again, this is going to be enclosed at some point. I just haven't got there yet. But above the storage area, this is where it gets a little bit weird. So what I've got here is I've got the resources coming in through here into this monstrosity. What this is a overflow sorter. So because of the way that this is a combination of splitters and mergers in a particular layout, such that it means that it is very unlikely for anything to come out here unless all of the storage is full. So there's another output. Whoops. There's another output into the storage container here, and falling off everything. Jetpacks would be nice, but I'm not there yet. These storage containers are full, and you can see as a result there is stuff coming out here. You can see this is a red belt because, well, we'll get to that in a moment. If we go over to one of these other ones, you can see again the same thing here, but you can see there's nothing coming out along this belt over here, and that's because the storage... Come on. There we go. Because the storage isn't full yet, so everything is prioritizing going into the containers first. And yeah, having the 3 containers is a bit overkill. I didn't actually want to have this 3rd container, but it was sort of necessary to, because of the size of this thing and to get everything pointed the right direction. So yeah, that's why there's these gaps here, is because I had to put the 3rd storage container up here every alternating row so that you can see these 2 systems. There's no way you could fit a 3rd system there, so the 3rd system in between the 2 has to go up higher onto this level. So you can see I haven't finished fully putting in all these systems for everything yet. Resources that I've actually not got coming in right now. But yeah, so this central line here, it's colored red because this is the overflow destruction line. Everything coming along here, and there's another line above that does the same thing, comes along and goes along down here and down here and down here into the red void. And this is just a little bit of fun. It's completely pointless, but I've got a tier 3 line coming in here, and then the Mark 1 line just splitting up into 3 Mark 1 lines just for the hell of it to go downstairs. It doesn't break anything. It's just a bit of silly fun. At some point I'll have to upgrade these to tier 3 as well, but I haven't done that yet. I mean, I can, it's just there's no reason to yet, so I haven't bothered. And this looks quite amusing with the concrete and the silica next to each other going down, because again, produce a lot of that, and I've got more of that than I need. And so that goes down, and it goes down into the system down here, which just goes straight into a sink. And this is how I've been getting most of my tickets. You can see I've now got another one ready, so yay. It's not super fast, but it does the job, and eventually the idea is that I'll have everything going into there. Now, you don't want to do this in the very early game when you're still running off biomass, because with the biomass burners you often need to build more production than you actually have power to run it simultaneously. But once you get onto coal power, as long as you build enough of it, then it's reasonably safe to have all your machines running all the time, and then you can have the excess production going off into the sink safely. So speaking of coal power, if we come down here, where I've got my steel production line coming in and going up, and spare line for something else later. Over here, this is where I set up my coal power plant, and let me tell you, once you go from the biomass power to the coal power, once you've got this coal power plant set up and running, it is an amazingly satisfactory feeling once everything is all going. So this is it here. It's basic setup here. Pipeline running down along here, and this is just in case of emergencies. If the power goes out, there's a little bit of extra water buffered up there, and into the actual coal power plant. Yeah. And again, once I actually unlock walkways, I'm planning to sort of put a walkway along here just to give you a better overview of everything, but go up here and you can see, so there's 16 power plants in here, and so there's 1200 megawatts, which is not massive as things go, but it's a lot better than the biomass. Yeah, this is very nice to set up. Looks very clean and tidy, although how did you get inside? Seriously, go away. Some people. Alright, so funny story actually. When I was actually initially setting this up, I only had access to the Mark I miner, and this was actually not producing enough coal for the amount of power plants that I set up. So I actually set up everything thinking that these were pure nodes, but they're actually not. They're normal nodes. So I had twice as many generators as I could actually run, but fortunately, because of the way the generators work, they back off when they're not actually consuming the power, as long as it didn't actually use more than 600 megawatts, which I'm actually still not using right now. It was actually okay, and it didn't run out of coal. But now I've upgraded these to Mark II miners, so there is actually enough coal that these could run flat out, and it wouldn't break anything, so that's good. Over here, this is the emergency startup system. They look like they're running, but actually they're not. They're actually disconnected from everything right now, so they're not actually consuming any biofuel. But basically, you can see here, this is the emergency power line. The idea is that if something goes wrong and everything crashes, you still need a little bit of power to run the water generators, and that's sort of why there's the buffer there, is that there's a buffer of water in the pipes, there's a buffer of water in the water containers out there, so there should be enough water to get everything back starting again, but just in case there isn't, there is one line coming out from here to the main factory which you can disconnect, and then you can connect this line up here, and then this becomes an isolated grid, and this number of biomass generators is just enough to kick on the water generators and get everything in here running again, and run the miners as well. It's actually slightly too much. In theory, 4 should be enough, but when I tested it, I found that the the forwards sometimes still have a spike and not quite run, so I put in 6 just to be extra sure. And in here I've got just an emergency supply of a little bit of extra biomass and the little bit of cable that you need to plug in that connection should you need it. Not that I'm expecting to run out of that, obviously. But hey, it never hurts to be careful. So I'm expecting to never need this anymore, but it pays to set it up just to be sure. And yeah. Silly little bean guy. Big bean guy. Over here, there's another couple of very noisy coal nodes. And up here I've set up one of Imkibit's steel engine machines. So this design is not mine. I saw it in one of Imkibit's videos. It looked really cool, so... Whoops, missed. Where is the... Whoop. Oh, didn't. Can be a little hard to navigate sometimes without the jetpack, but there we go. So back here I've got an iron node, and up the front is the actually 2 coal nodes, because this one's a pure node and those ones are normal nodes, I think. And actually this is running Mark II miners now, but before I had the Mark II miners I could actually only run half of this, so I actually only built half of it. But now that these have been upgraded to Mark II, you can actually run the full machine. But I don't know, I might want to move this at some point to somewhere else to I can find somewhere better to generate steel. This is now fully at capacity. Until I get a Mark III miner or something. So yeah, again, this produces steel. Steel goes off into the main factory where I turn it into other things. And the 2 coal nodes here are near the border, so that would be another good place for another coal power supply system. But yeah, I needed it for the steel because we had the iron here, so haven't quite figured out what to do there yet. Maybe I'll find some better place for steel. This fog is a bit crazy sometimes. Like a lot of the time it's not too bad, but sometimes you can't even see that in front of you. The fog is so thick. It's not that bad now, but it's still pretty bad. It's not always this bad. So if we run over here, you can see, yeah, like this sort of thickness of fog is what it usually is, but it's a bit random sometimes. So let's go back over here. So yeah, I haven't done any much else building that way. I actually haven't done too much building at all at the moment. Let's see. Got the coal power plant over here, and the main base and things are over here, and that's pretty much all of the world that I've conquered. So you can see the map is quite large. Can't quite remember exactly how much larger it is. So there's not much extra space above me. I think that's the edge of the map there. But I know below here there's quite a lot of space, which I haven't got around to exploring too much yet. Although I think I have explored a little bit more than that, but that was before I got the map, so I think it didn't show up or something. I'm not quite sure that works. So back here, and this gets back into the factory. So one other bit of production that didn't show off is down here. I've got some quartz nodes, which there's one more node down there. Again, these are just Mark I miners with a Mark I factory that I haven't upgraded yet, and that's just producing the there we go, producing the quartz and the silica, which I'm actually Not using it at all for anything yet. I haven't even set up the crystal oscillator production yet, so it is going into storage, and most of it's going off into the sink, as you saw earlier. So I just unlocked the tier 3 belts recently, so that's the point at which you really want to start ripping things out and replacing it, I think, is when you've got access to the tier 3 belts, because they're obviously a lot better than all of the previous belts. So I'm probably going to end up redesigning things here, but the basic idea, again, this is all planning to be enclosed at some point. This is the iron production area. Over here, which I haven't set up yet, would be the copper production area. This is the steel production area here. Again, you can see I've got a few things producing stuff, but not very much, but it's enough. I've just got these, I think it's 3 machines over here producing these steel plates. Yeah, 3 machines producing steel plates and 2 machines producing the steel pipes, and that's enough to fill up the storage pretty well. Obviously, once I actually start setting up production of the higher tier things, then I'm going to end up using a lot more of these, and I'm going to have to ramp up the production quite a bit, but for now this is good enough. But yeah, the idea is to have everything surrounding the central item storage. Yeah, this I'm not entirely happy about. It works, but it takes up a lot of space. It's not too hard to build, but it's annoying. So I'm debating at the moment whether to start playing with mods. So far, all of my playthroughs have been completely without mods, and you can see here this is around 45 hours into this particular world. Completely without mods, but there is one mod that is just very, very tempting, and this is it over here. This is a modded splitter. It's from the, I think it's Advanced Logistics mod, I think it was called, and it has the splitter and also a merger, but the splitter in particular, it has a UI and you can tell it what to do and what ratio, and in particular this behavior here is exactly what that does. So all of this machines, 6 splitters, 6 mergers, an ungodly amount of belts and wiring, and an extra container that I didn't want, all replaced with one little splitter. And so what this would do, this is the input line, it would say that because this is 0 and this is 1, it means that everything goes down the middle, nothing goes down to the left, until the middle line is full, and then everything goes to the left after that. And that's exactly what I want over there. I want everything to go through from the input, through the splitter, into the storage, but if the storage is full, then go out into the sink line. And yeah, so I'm a little hesitant about using mods because they do break when there's an update, and then I wouldn't be able to play the game for a little while until that's resolved. But it's kind of hard to argue with this versus this. I think I'm probably going to tear all this out and replace them with this. It's actually, in some ways, there are some things this is slightly better at, because this, despite the size of this, it also means that both the actual production output into the storage and also the sink line are on the same line, in line with each other, whereas this one of them has to be off to the side. You can't have the 2 outputs in line with each other. But that's not a major thing. It still just means that I'm going to have 2 different levels for the 2 side-by-side storage. I can't put them directly feeding in because I need to have a little bit of space for the overflows. But that's not the end of the world. So I think I'm probably going to do this. But yeah, I just wanted to have a record of this mess, and it does work, like I said. There's nothing wrong with it. It works perfectly. It's might possibly cause a little more lag in the world just because of the extra decisions it has to make through each splitter. And like the way it works is that the thing comes in and then most of it will go down the sides and only occasionally go to the one front, and then once it's down on the bottom, it just always goes straight forward. But there's always a point where if it survives the first one, it then comes to the second one, where again most of them will go down the sides and so on. So it just means that there is a very, very small chance that even if the storage is not full, then something may make it all the way through all the splitters into the end, but it's not really worth worrying about. It's I think it's less than 1% chance, and it doesn't really matter. So mostly this works as described. It'll just till the storage is full, everything goes into the storage and then close, whereas this one guarantees until storage is full, everything goes into storage. So again, that's slightly better. And maybe Coffee Stain will eventually put something like this into the base game as well. A lot of these, I think these different shapes of foundations and things were also originally mods, and they've been added to the base game, so maybe they'll be doing something like that. Although even to do that, I'll have to still rip it out and replace it once they actually do change it, because there won't be a drop-in replacement. So if we look at it over here, you can see the copper line there, main factories here, main base, limestone system, which has a yellowy, whitish sort of colour. And again, eventually this would all be walled in and things that haven't got to that point yet. So it's not the biggest base, it's not the prettiest base, but it's definitely a lot better than the mess that I had in the previous world. Oops. Oh, no, 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 ow. I don't really have any intention to build a massive, silly base. I don't have that kind of time or energy, but this is, I think, a nice sort of medium-sized base. And once I get to trains and things, then I'll be able to go a little bit further afield. At the moment, I haven't really... I've sort of wandered around the world a bit to gather biomass initially, and also try and find hard drives, although I haven't found that many at the moment. So, the other interesting nodes, I think... Fluffy boy around here somewhere. Didn't see him. So I think down here there's some sulfur nodes. I think I've got them turned around somewhere. Where are we? Somewhere. Oh, it's not this far. Let's be over this way. Yeah, here we go. So there's some sulfur nodes here, and got just some basic... oh, fluffy boy. Hi, how are you doing? Mind if I kill you? Guess he didn't mind. So yeah, I haven't set up any automation on this yet. I've only just now unlocked the nobelisks, so now I've actually got a use for the sulfur, but I haven't automated that yet. Oh, hello, more fluffy boys. Those guys are not very dangerous anymore once you have the big wacky stick. But jumping around is also a good defense. To be honest, actually, they're not that dangerous, even if you've got the little zapper as well. You just have to be a little more careful. I think up this hill there's a fluffy boy somewhere, but also a Caterium node, I think. Yeah. Yeah. It's up here. Yeah. So this is where I've been getting a little bit of Caterium. There's a rock there that I couldn't do anything about before, but I can now. In fact, do something about it right now. That was a poor throw. Come on. That's better. Okay. Good that doesn't hurt these things. So yeah, this nice normal Caterium node, actually I found there's a pure Caterium node right up on that cliff there. So I'll probably get to that at some point as well. Although, yeah, at the moment I don't actually have a use for Caterium, but I think there's a few recipes that start to need a little bit of quick wire, so I'll probably start needing to use those soon. Yeah, nice pretty location. Lots of trees to cut down. So overall, pretty good starting area, I think. And enjoyed it quite a bit. You can see up here there's that extra copper node that I haven't got into yet. Sure where I'll just say 4. Let's go back this way. How about over here? Oh yeah, this should be good. And yeah, most of the nodes around here are pure or normal, so that's pretty good as well. And yeah, iron node over here I'm not even actually using for anything real, so it's another thing to upgrade. So basically this whole valley is going to become an iron processing building like this. I'll tear everything down here and probably move the plate and rod construction into the main base. And move all this copper generation stuff into the main base as well, into that corner. I haven't quite decided what to do about this limestone node here. Again, it's a nice pure node, which this was the main node that I was using at the start. Just going into a bin here so I could use building things. So one limestone node I want to keep for making concrete, and the other one I want to use for making the encased beams. So are we? Yeah, the encased industrial beams take concrete and steel. Trouble is all of my steel production is over on this side of the base. And too big. Buddy, this isn't even really a big base. So yeah, this is where I've got the steel coming in from down below, over onto this line here, and up into the steel production area up there, where it then comes down. It's pipes and plates over here. Which again, I haven't decided whether I want to tidy that up and give it sort of proper plating like this. This is sort of the public area middle. People are expected to be, whereas this is factory floor area where there isn't really expected to be people other than me. Not that anyone actually plays this, but just conceptually. So the other thing is that, yeah, over here, remember they've got the concrete factory up here because this is another limestone road right there. So I've got limestone there, I've got steel coming in over here, and there's actually a interesting, the concrete alternate recipe here, which takes silica and limestone to produce a little bit more concrete than otherwise. So yeah, 25 per minute instead of 15 per minute. Well, basically the same amount of limestone. It's taking a little bit extra silica, and yeah, look, hello, here's some quartz nodes producing a ton of silica right here. So it's very tempting to make this into a big concrete slash steel slash I don't know what I haven't quite decided which one I want to be my main concrete node and which one I want to be my industrial beam node, but I think at the moment I'm leaning towards using the one over there just purely for concrete, and this one's going to be used for enhanced silica concrete, which then turns into industrial beams, because while I haven't unlocked it yet, I know that the steel beams are going to be used a lot for making the tier 4 conveyors and a bunch of other things from my previous world. So actually I'm currently at a lower tech than on my previous world, I guess, because I haven't got to tier 4 yet. Sorry, the tier Mark 4 conveyors, which are in tier 5 of the hub, I think. I also haven't unlocked the new hypertubes yet, which is going to make moving them around the base quite a bit nicer. That also takes a bunch of encased beams to actually unlock that level, so I could make them manually, but I kind of want to set up the automated production first. And wow, I've been talking a lot more than I've intended to, so not that I expect anyone to actually ever watch this video, but I just wanted to make it anyway, just to sort of show where I'm at, just mostly for my own reference, I guess. But if there is somebody else watching this, then I hope you found it interesting. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have fun. Hope you have a very satisfactory day.